Welcome back to Excel 2016, Module 2, Part 2. In this video, we will be working with formulas and functions, reviewing some of those, and we will also be working with formatting numbers. With Excel, we do a lot of formatting of numbers. You want to make them more readable. So we're going to get back into our morning Excel spreadsheet, our workbook. We previously had been formatting our documentation sheet. Now we need to make the sales report our active worksheet. And we need to create some formulas. You can see that some of the data is missing. So we're going to use formulas and functions and review some of those while we work with formatting of the numbers. So let's start with our gross sales. For gross sales, we're going to use the auto sum button and get the sum function. But that is not the correct range. That is a year. So we want to scroll down here to where we see the store sales, and we want to start in C27 and go all the way over to N and then down to capture all the stores in 46. So we are going to sum the numbers in the range C27 through N46. Once you get that range in, you'll hit enter, and you will see then that it brings in the total gross sales for all of the stores combined. Now, if you've had accounting, you might remember that to get to the net profit, you have to take gross sales and subtract your cost of sales and then subtract your operating expenses. So we're going to create a formula that does that for us. We're going to use parentheses to ensure the order of operations that we want and make the formula a little more readable and understandable. So we're going to start with an equal sign, and we want to start with gross sales. So I'll click on that cell. Then I want to subtract from that, and in parentheses, I'm going to add the cost of sales and the operating expenses. So what that says is add up the cost of sales and the operating expenses, and then take that total and subtract it from net profit, or from gross sales. And that gives me net profit or loss. If this were a negative number, then that would be a loss. So I am going to copy this formula, paste it into column D so that I get that answer. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take all of these numbers up here for the 2 years, and I want to divide them by the number of stores to get the average per store. We can't compare them by themselves without the averages very easily because the number of stores changed. So we're going to start out by saying is equal to, take the gross sales and divide it by the number of stores in C23. Remembering that we always want to use cell references in our formulas, because in a minute we're going to copy all of these from 2017 column C to column D. and we want them to automatically calculate the answers for 2016. We don't want to have to alter the formulas. So we're going to start out with equal, take our cost of sales and divide it by the number of stores. We'll do the same thing for the next 4 fields. Operating expenses divided by the number of stores, and profit or loss divided by the number of stores. Then units sold divided by the number of stores. And remember, every formula must start with an equal sign. The equal sign tells Excel that you are not entering text, that you are entering a formula. Once we have all of those fields being divided by the number of stores, we're going to take the range C16 through C22, and we're going to copy that and paste it into the same range in column D. Next, we are going to take and calculate the net change. So I'm going to start out by saying the net change is equal to the value in C minus the value in D for the same row. What we're going to do to calculate the percentage change is we're going to force the order of operations again using our parentheses. So we're going to start out with an equal, open the parentheses, and say the first thing you need to do is take C6 and subtract D6. Then you take that answer and divide it by the value that is in D6. So once we get those, we can copy. And since you can paste multiple times, you can choose whether you want to highlight each space individually, like I am, so that you can paste these formulas into the sections, or you could select them all as a non-adjacent ranges, and it would then paste them all one time. You can do it either way. And as you can tell, we do have multiple ways of doing many things in Excel. Now we're going to scroll over, then we're going to create some totals in our store table down here. So in O26, we're going to type the word total. And we're going to use an auto sum. We want to sum January through December sales for that store. And once we get that answer, we can then copy that and paste it down to the rest of the stores. So that totals the sales for the year for each store. The other thing that would be helpful is to total the monthly sales for all stores. So we're going to type total in B, and we're going to use the auto sum to sum up the column. So as you can see, 27 is our first store. So then we can copy this and paste it across to all of the other months and our yearly total. Next, we want to start formatting some of these numbers. All right, so let's scroll back up to the top. And let's look here at gross sales. Now, gross sales for these three columns, C, D, and E, those are numbers. And since it's the top of the report, we typically would like to see dollar signs to indicate that they are dollar amounts, not just quantities or some other thing. So we're going to use this accounting format. And when we do that, you see we get these pounds. That does not mean it's an error. What it means is the number is too large to fit in the cell. The reason that happened is because the accounting format, number format, adds 2 places after the decimal, and we need to remove those. So we're going to hit the decrease decimal twice. Then we're going to look at the rest of the amounts that are underneath it, and we want to add to those the columns, or excuse me, the commas, but not the dollar signs. So I'm going to highlight all 3 of those, and I'm going to use the comma. Again, it added decimal places, so I need to get rid of those. If you have dollar signs on every row, it just tends to look too busy. And so most people agree that dollar signs on the top are good. Some people do like to see dollar signs on the bottom, like that, since it's the total. So you could do it that way. You would just follow whatever instructions they give you when it comes to the homework. Now, units sold and customers served, those are quantities. They are not dollar amounts. So we would want to use the comma. And again, we need to get rid of the decimals. Now, the next thing we would want to do is change these to percentage formatting. So we can increase the decimals here to make them a little more precision in the answers. With the increase and the decrease decimal buttons, each time you click it, it either adds or removes 1 place after the decimal. And the next thing we want to look at is how to format dates. It is important to remember that even though we typed this in as a date, dates are stored in Excel as numbers. Therefore, they are formatted the same way as numbers, and you can perform mathematical functions on those. So, for example, if I typed in here 12/31/2016 and then below it 8/2/2016, and I wanted to know how many days were between those, I could do math and it would tell me that there were 151 days. So it's important to remember they are actually stored as a number. It's the number formatting that is different. So for example, this says it is formatted as a date. So if you look at that, this is what it is formatting as, short date. And it will give you a 1 or 2 digit month, a 1 or 2 digit day, as well as a 4-digit year. If I change that to long date, now it displays the date, the day of the week, in text format. In addition to these options here, where you have this drop down, and you have these options here, you also have the ability to click this dialog box opener, and you have many more options here in this dialog box. We'll continue our formatting with indenting, borders, and alignments in the next video.